Hello, and welcome back to the kitchen table. Today, I'm kicking off a cool project I've been working on with a friend. This is the Summer Kitchen Table Pauper Tournament. We're simulating a 5-round tournament with 20 decks as best we can. If you're interested more in how I set up this tournament, I'll have some details at the end of the video. I know y'all want to see the gameplay first, but just keep in mind that we are not experts in all the decks we play here, and there will be some mistakes and takebacks. If you see a better line of play, leave it in the comments. Our first round 1 matchup is green-white gates with a red splash for Rising Chrysalis and some sideboard hate versus Grixis Affinity. Green-white gates wins the die roll and is on the play, developing the first few turns with, you guessed it, some gates and an early Sacred Cat. When playing gates, I find white is almost always the secondary color you want. Affinity spends its opening turns getting pretty good mana and a redraw off Ichor Wellspring. Sacred Cat connects for 1, and a Gate Creeper Vine searches out a Basilisk Gate, promising huge damage later. Affinity has a pretty good turn 3 with a Blood Fountain, giving enough artifacts to cheat out a Mirror Enforcer. Mirror Enforcer is the only game 1 answer Affinity has to Guardian of the Guildpact. Rather than drop a Basilisk Gate and try to connect with a large Sacred Cat, Gates goes for another Mana Gate and a Shattered Acolyte. I like Shattered Acolyte in the main over Outlaw Medic for a little extra play against Affinity, especially with their explosive draws. It's also good against other artifacts, obviously. The Acolyte immediately takes out the Mirror Enforcer, and Sacred Cat sneaks in for another point of damage. Affinity unfortunately misses a land drop, but does get a 1-mana Refurbished Familiar into play, causing Prismatic Strands to be discarded. Then they follow up with a Galvanic Blast on the Sacred Cat. This blast may have been a little bit premature, though. Gates puts it into high gear on turn 5 by playing the previously searched up Basilisk Gate, a Guardian of the Guildpact, and embalming the Sacred Cat. Things aren't looking good for Affinity with a Guardian and 5 gates in play. Affinity does draw 3 with Reckoner's Bargain, sacrificing Ichor Wellspring, and hits their 4th land drop while gaining 2 life. This style of black card draw might be the best engine in Pauper. Refurb also connects, bringing life totals back to 20 for each player. Affinity also adds a neutral monitor to the board, which is usually a pretty scary threat. Turn 6 is brutal, with a Basilisk Gate off the top allowing the Guardian to smash in for 14. Since it has protection from monocolored, even an artifact like Neutral Monitor can't block, because it's actually blue. Things are looking pretty bad for Affinity. Affinity goes for a line of digging for a Mirror Enforcer to buy some more time, but doesn't find one. They scoop to not being able to deal with the Guardian. We later discussed that there was a Blood Fountain, and that could have returned an Enforcer to block, but Gates had the Armadillo Cloak anyway. Never didn't have it. Affinity starts game 2 with a mulligan, but hits Icarwellsping on curve while Gates develops good mana with their Gates. Affinity misses another land drop, but develops the board with a Spellbomb and a Blood Fountain, giving them tons of redraw potential. Gates has a Malevolent Rumble that hits Guardian of the Guildpact, then plays a Basilisk Gate. Pretty solid turn. Affinity answers with a turn 4 Mirror Enforcer and cycles a card off the Blood token. Gates just jams the Guardian into play, and Affinity gets an EOT redraw off the Spellbomb. Things get a little better as Affinity scores another free Mirror Enforcer and a Cart Clunt Shaman. They connect for 4 with the first Enforcer and pass the turn. We get into an interesting timing and rule situation on the next turn. I'm playing the Gates deck, and I try to Thraben Charm the Mirror Enforcer for 4. Not realizing that Clan Shaman can ping my spawn token, nerfing the charm to only 2 damage. We discuss this play for a little bit, and then rewind so I can play a Gatekeeper Vine, making 3-bin charm hit the Enforcer for 6. The Shaman still wipes the board for 2 in response, killing the Vine and the spawn, which shrinks the charm back down to 2. However, during the discussion, we both missed that the Shaman also deals 2 damage to the Enforcer, and combined with the Thraben charm damage, it should have died. Whoops. Since this all happened pre-combat in response to the Thraben charm, I do get to sack my spawn for mana in response, which I filter into white through the Heap Gate to play my Sacred Cat. Affinity connects again with Mirror Enforcer, bringing gates down to 12. Gates responds on their turn by playing the Basilisk Gate that the Gatekeeper Vine fetched, and tries to gate up the Guardian and the Sacred Cat to gain some life back. Affinity has the Galvanic Blast for the cat, and a very tricky block with Mirror Enforcer, using Toxin Analysis to give it lifelink and Death Touch, trading with the pumped up Guardian and gaining 4 life. Affinity cracks back with Mirror Enforcer, bringing gates down to 8. Then the Blood Fountain returns another Enforcer and a Shaman. The Enforcer hits play. Gates tries to stabilize with a Writhing Chrysalis, and sacks one of the spawns to filter the mana needed to play a Shattered Acolyte. Affinity swings in with both Enforcers in an attempt to clear the board. Gates sacks the last spawn to activate the Shattered Acolyte, destroying one of the Enforcers, and blocks the other with a now 4/5 Chrysalis. The known Clan Shaman cleans up the board by dealing the last point of damage, and the turn ends with an Utral Monitor and another Blood Fountain hitting play. threatening to rebuild a powerful board presence for Affinity. This has been a really good back and forth game too, despite the missed damage on the earlier Mirror Enforcer. Gates responds on their turn with another Writhing Chrysalis and a top deck Thraben Charm on the Uchal monitor. In hindsight, this charm may have been better spent to nuke the graveyard to prevent the Mirror Enforcers from returning off of the Blood Fountain. The decision works out though, as Affinity only has 6 artifacts after sacking the Blood Fountain to get back the Enforcers, and can't cheat them into play. It would have been real bad for Gates if Affinity top decked a land. We have a moment where he thinks about getting back an Uchal monitor instead of one of the Enforcers, forgetting that Chrysalis has Secret Reach. Gotta love a keyword ability buried on the third line of text. Without having enough artifacts to cheat out both Enforcers, Gates is able to sacrifice both spawns to make Chrysalis a 4/5, then activate 3 Basilisk Gates to crash in for 25. Just enough to steal the game. What a wild one. As I was playing Gates, I ended up boarding out the Prismatic Strands and boarding in Shenanigans, something I've been excited to try as a repeatable artifact destruction that plays well with Malevolent Rumble. I just didn't see any in Game 2 to test the theory. I still think it's good. We'll take the victory any way we get it though. Green-White Gates with the red splash wins 2-0 against Grixis Affinity. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more awesome Pauper magic. Here's some more information on how I set up the tournament. I started this project a day before Hawkeye's bow was spoiled, so while some decks will have the Seeker of Skybright combo, others that could have it don't. I just didn't have the time or resources to update all my builds. We're not experts at all the decks, so there will be some loose play and some takebacks allowed. This is for fun after all. Also, there's no mirror matches. We'll have 20 unique decks in this event. You won't see all those games on camera though. Some of that is due to technical difficulties during recording, and some of that is just from the deck having too many proxies. Yes, you will see some proxies in the decks.